bill will repeal the old stamp duty law of 1939 before Nigeria got independence and introduce a new stamp duty law that is broad-based, easy to collect, and all the revenue coming from that will go to the state 100%. These bills also assign the taxing right for limited liability partnership to go to the state, not the federal government, giving them more resources to run the affairs of the subnational. These bills will also allow states to enjoy tax exemption should they issue bonds. Today, federal government bond is tax exempt. State government bond is not tax exempt. These bills are trying to correct that inequity. We must recognize that this is a federation and we must empower the subnational. A more equitable formula for sharing VAT to recognize where the income is, where the consumption takes place. We had an engagement with tax professionals and CFOs. These are the most knowledgeable stakeholders we have because they deal with these issues. After our engagement with them, where we had over 3,000 online and offline, guess what? For all the participants that participated in person, the approval rate is 100%. For those who participate online, watching the recorded session, 92%. For those who did not participate at all, but have been reading what we have been putting out, approval rate is 76%. Overall, Nigerians who support these reforms holistically are over 90%. And the areas where we have disputes, conversations, controversies, are the issues we can iron out. These bills have more than 200 transformative provisions to fix our country and set us on the right path to prosperity. We should not allow one or two provisions that we can easily discuss and agree on to become the pain.
Mr. Speaker, this is an injurious to me and injurious to my people, to my religion, and also to my region where I came from. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, I am calling this
Prizes Ikole and Oyo local government. Mr. Speaker, I'm from Ekiti State, the very first state in which our National Assembly caucus has unanimously endorsed the tax bills. Mr. Speaker, I rise on behalf of Honorable Boma Goodhead. Mr. Speaker, I rise on behalf of Honorable Boma Goodhead. Mr. Speaker.
Order, please. Order.
Mr. Speaker.
He's expressing his personal opinion. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Order,
Speaker,
please.
I am protected. Honorable colleagues, I am protected. Honorable colleagues, I am protected, please. Please. Thank you.
Order, please. Order.
Thank you very much.
Order, please. Please.
No.
Please, order, please. Order.
No, this is very expensive job. We don't accept this. What did you say?
Prove to what you are representing here.
Thank you very
We
much.
are not talking about tax bills. Please.
Mr. Speaker,
Honorable colleagues,
I withdraw that
he
introduction.
has withdrawn.
Yes, sir.
He has withdrawn that statement, please. He has withdrawn it. Please. Order, please. Order.
Yes, sir. Please. Mr. Speaker, I withdraw that introduction. I withdraw the introduction. I will introduce myself properly. Mr. Speaker, can I have the opportunity to speak?
Please, honorable colleagues. Sit down. Sit down. Sit down. Honorable Rotimi.
All right, that has been the mood. This is just one out of many different fora. That was the House of Representatives yesterday at the plenary, in which the House spokesman, the gentleman from Ekiti State, tried to, raise kind of shoulders to say he and their caucus, the Ekiti caucus at the National Assembly, have endorsed. And then you saw the backlash from his colleagues to say, you're endorsing what we have not really talked about. And he had to withdraw it because he was being harangued, by his colleagues. And the speaker had to tell him, to step that down and withdraw. And he did that. But it's not just about the plenary. National Assembly, the Senate as well, the Red Chamber, had something similar. When the Presidential Tax Committee came in last week, and many persons said, we didn't invite you. What are you doing here? Senator Alin Dume raised objections to say, we have a business, very serious business of the day at the plenary. You can't just work in, and it's been noise and noise, especially about these elephants in the room, the tax reform bills. 4 of them, we spoke on it earlier in the week. But then this morning, we have a tax expert with us. He is a chartered accountant and former member of I want to get that very rightly, former Joint Tax Board member, to inform us, educate us further on this particular topic, because governors have been talking about it. Politicians have been talking about it. Some experts have been giving their opinion. A professor who is a governor, Babangana Zulum, has been making some very categorical statements. And many of his assertions and fears were allayed at a town hall meeting held 2 days ago by channel, TV channel, and of course some eminent members, to say this is our intention. This is what we mean. It's a win-win situation. If you can go back to the drawing board and you work, you will earn more. But what is really the problem? The controversy, in which some have said, in fact, Mr. Tawu Oyedele said, it is needless. Just read through and you see our intention. But then it seems in some quarters, especially in some part of the country, their mind is made up. And in fact, this morning, I read it in our papers, the Senate caucus, the northern senators are saying, withdraw it. We are not having this already. And, the questions have been posed to many of them. Have you seen the bill? Have you gone through it? But then, just like I said, we have a chartered accountant with us, and of course, the former Joint Tax Board member, Prince Adegbite Ademikanra. Good morning, sir. Good morning. Good to have you here again.
Thank you so much.
It's been a while.
Yes.
But then when questions that has to do with your expertise arise, we just have to shine our torchlight and find you. And thank God you are here.
Thank you very much.
Now, let's start from here. Let us know, this is majorly this morning about information and education, knowing the writing, giving it to us the way it is, so that you can make up your mind on which side of the coin you belong. Firstly, as a Nigerian, before your political inclination or your tribe or language or other, primordial sentiment or considerations, which is fairly, is your right to choose whatever you want to believe, but trust us to do justice to this matter. Let me ask you, before we get into the nitty-gritty, Prince, why do you think there's so much noise, so much controversy? Of course, bills will always be controversial. This is not the first time, but this is on a scale that we have not seen before in recent times. Why?
Thank you, Femi. And good morning, viewers at home. I think it's just unfortunate that we are taking it to this level. In Nigeria of today, you will agree with me, there is so much trust deficit in every sector of the economy. People really believe anybody. Members really believe their religious leaders. Subordinates really believe their leaders. Nigerians generally, they do not really have trust in politicians again. And they believe whatever they do, they are trying to deceive us. And if you realize that before President Tinubu became the president, he was known to be an expert, so to say, in tax generation. And people believe that if that kind of bill is coming from President Tinubu, then definitely he's coming to tax people to death. So immediately they heard about tax reforms they believe, yes, Tinubu has come. We will never allow him to do that. But people didn't read through the document. If you read through the document, you will believe that all these problems, arguments, hereabout, thereabout, shouldn't have come to this level. Nigerians at this moment should be able to sit down, think through whatever the government is giving us. And thank God, we're in a democratic dispensation. Everybody can have a say to whatever the government is trying to do. They are not forcing it on us. But that's not for us to just condemn. You know, you saw a woman with pregnancy and you believe, no, this lady, the baby is going to be a female. Do you know whether, are you a medical person? Yeah. Have you carried out any form of scan upon her for you to come to that conclusion? I think that is the problem that we have in Nigeria today. And again,
distrust.
Trust deficit. That's number one. And then number two, the level of opposition that we are having today in Nigeria is too sharp. People are not taking anything for granted. Well, whenever the government of the day, even at the state level or at the national level, the sitting government, whenever they come up with any form of policies, you see the opposition coming out strongly against such government. But I think at this moment, we need to constantly engage ourselves. We need to educate ourselves, and we need to let people know that government at times, they mean well for us. And if they mean well for us, then we need to embrace whatever they are bringing to us.
All right. You know, you said something about the opposition. I just want us to take the questions from the fringes before we now delve straight right into it. Excuse me. To say, distrust from Nigerians because of antecedents and records and all of these things, you know, politics, you know, on the altar of opposition. But I dare say, even members of the same party with Mr. President, high-ranking ones, governors, senators, have been raising their hands to say, no, we are not having this. This is against us. So, apart from the opposition thing, even people of the same party, you know, a stature of Professor Babangana Zulum, who is a governor, who is a member of the APC, high-ranking one. In fact, the vice president was his predecessor. So it's somebody that should be in the know. And Aline Dume, a very high-ranking senator.
Yes.
So it's not just about the opposition. Even people of the same party, they are complaining.
And that goes again to say that there's so much mistrust again in the country.
And these are the people you say they are close to the president.
Very well. Very, 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 very well. But you remember that what Zulum was trying to say was not original to him. He's a professor.
Yeah.
He could read.
And so people expect he should know better.
He could read. He could understand the letters of those reforms. Okay. But I want to assure you that if you call Governor Zulum again, you ask him very personal questions. I don't think he has read through the reforms and all those documents.
So you think he's echoing other person's sentiment?
You see, the sentiment came from some caucus in the northern part of the country. And the feeling then was that, look, this Tinubu is coming with a policy that is anti-northern region. And you know, the leaders in the north, when they came together, they summoned a particular meeting. And it was at that meeting that they told them that, look, you guys must move against this reform. At that moment, what they're supposed to do as those governors from the northern part of the country is to ask the leaders to please hold on for a while. Let us go through the document before we react. But they reacted immediately, and I think it's overreaction. Because I know quite a lot of these guys that you are talking about. Is it Governor Sule of Nasarawa? Is he Zulum, like you have said, like Ndume? All these are very educated, very enlightened people. But they had this thinking that the reform will be anti-northern governor. And that is why I'm saying that in Nigeria today, you know, I was able to even give you instances. I say subordinates, they don't trust the superior, the members of any religious organization, they don't really believe in their religious leaders. It is like that in Nigeria, and we need a lot of work to do. We always say that, look, it's one Nigeria, it's one nation. But some critics also, they will say it's a contraption of strange bedfellows. They formed 1914 through Lord Lugard. They came together, amalgamation, that we are not really one. And this particular agitation, protest on this reform has shown that we have a lot of work to do. For me, with my experience in development economics, I know Nigeria, as big as we are, is better we stay this way. It's good for everyone. It's good for the economy. It's good even politically. But we need to work more on our cohesion.
All right. Let's now go into the cross of the matter. The 4 bills that has turned very controversial.
Yes.
We have the Nigeria Tax Bill 2024.
Yes.
The Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service Establishment Bill, and the Joint Revenue Board Establishment Bill. And these are currently before both chambers of the National Assembly for passage. In fact, all the newspapers from Monday till now, even last week, even this morning, have that tax reform bills something. Prince, what is the spirit? Because as I said, in law, there are spirits that are intent. What do you think are the intents of these 4 bills? What are they set out to achieve? So let's start from there.
Okay. Femi, before I will go straight to that particular question, let me just give you one scenario.
Please.
Just some days ago, I mean, maybe 2 days ago, a guy who graduated from Uniben posted this picture. He made first class honors and with a GPA of 4.98 over 5 in Uniben. And he was given an award of 5,000 naira.
5,000?
5,000 naira.
By who? The unit?
By the university.
Or his department?
The university. Now, ask me why. You know, like I can see from your own reaction, you feel like, what
was
is
it
5,000?
given by his friends? Or who?
By the university. And that's what the law says. In the university, that's the law.
That must be that figure.
Yes. But you know why?
Why?
The law has been in existence since 1960s.
Wow.
Okay? You will now tell me that, look, this is wrong. This is not okay. After all, we see all those programs they always do on TV.
Yeah.
What do you call those programs?
Yeah.
That,
I understand, yeah.
People
they
giving 100 million.
Vanities and all of those things.
Why are you giving somebody who came out with 3 first class or not 5?
Yeah.
It's because they are observing the law. The law, as it were, at the University of Benin now, and many other popular universities, have not been reviewed over years. Now,
so you stipulated that amount.
It's stipulated that amount, and if you give the guy more than 5,000, you've contravened the law.
That's a breach.
It's a breach. So you need to stay with the law. And I tell you, for any good tax systems in any country, it must sit on a tripod. The tax policy, the tax administration, and the tax law. So every taxes that we have in Nigeria must be driven by the law. In fact, that's why most times when you are given a bill to pay your tax, you can contest it if it's not in line with the law. But most of the laws that we are using in Nigeria as at today, they are obsolete. Some of them, like the stamp duty, was enacted in 1939, even before independence, and it's still running up to today.
You are still using it?
Yeah, we are still using it. The one that we did in the 60s, in the 70s, in fact, the value-added tax,
VAT,
last time that it was enacted during the military regime was in 1993. Most of these laws have not been reviewed, and they are not relevant again as of today. How will you say that, okay, in Africa, Nigeria has about the lowest tax to GDP ratio of about 6.something%, whereas South Africa, the tax to GDP is about 21%. And do you know what that means? Yeah. It means that, look, the quantum of tax generation in South Africa to the level of the GDP, the totality of what you produce in that country, is 21%, which is almost like a quarter. All right? But in Nigeria, our own tax to GDP is about 6% or 6% thereabout. Now, what that means is that you can only, for whatever you are doing within the economy of Nigeria, only 6% could be driven or could be done with the tax generated within the system. This is too low. And in all countries of the world, what can help you to sustain progressive infrastructural development is your tax. But you can't increase it in Nigeria except you review the laws. Okay? So what we are now saying now is that these reforms that is coming on board now is necessary for some reasons. Number one, we even have so many laws, so many tax laws out there. multiplicity of taxes. So this tax reform is saying, look, we want to harmonize them. We want to bring them to manageable numbers so that we have close to about 60-something taxes that we are collecting in Nigeria, and we are still collecting very few. In South Africa, they have about 6 taxes that they are collecting. Yeah. And they are collecting more than what we are collecting in Nigeria. And we have 60-something taxes. This is not ideal. So the reason why this reform should be looked into and be implemented is because we need things that will drive our economy. Our economy is almost in comatose. We cannot rely on mono products in Nigeria. We cannot rely on petroleum products again. And even in future, we may have to do with petroleum products. So if we have to do with that, what will now be our option? The option now is for us to come up with a formidable, a robust framework that will give us taxes and that will give us continuous generation of taxes within the system. So this is why this tax reform is necessary. So once it comes on board now, number again, in the previous reform, in the previous tax laws that we are using at the moment, we focus so much on the lower echelon of the ladder. We focus too much on those guys that could be regarded as living below the poverty line. We leave all those rich men to enjoy their booty while we keep on taxing poverty. And no country can...
Why is that, Prince? Is it because of the law, or the proponents, the handlers, the people in charge choose to look away?
No, it's because of the law. You know, I told you, you can't drive taxes, you can't drive revenue generation without a robust law. Our law is so porous, our law is not strong, our law, honestly, is not actually addressing the issue in Nigeria. And so if you are a rich man, it's easier for you to evade those taxes. And when you evade those taxes, who are those people that will now come and, and charge you and collect what is due to the government? So with this new law now, those guys that ordinarily will shout, will protest, our workers, those who are earning below, for instance, those people who are earning below 800,000 naira, they won't pay tax. Let me give you one scenario.
Monthly or yearly?
Yearly.
Okay.
Let me give you, okay, for instance, if you're on 70,000 naira per month now, your total annual salary will be 840,000 naira. What this law now is saying is that the first 800,000 naira will be zero. So you only be taxed to the tune of 40,000 naira in a year. If you are on a minimum scale of 70,000 per month. The new law now says that your first 800,000 will not be taxed. You will only be taxed
in that year.
In that year.
Okay. So
that means you'll be taxed only with you only be taxed on 40,000 naira. And if I have to look at my table, because that's why I said taxes are driven by laws. And so if you look at the table, for instance, now, if you tax 40,000 at 11%, I think at 7%, maybe that's what the law is saying, you only pay about 6,000 naira in a year. And that would be about 500 naira in a month. Who is that person that is on a minimum level in this station that will not be happy with that?
500 naira.
Yes. Monthly. Yeah. But before, the first 300,000 will be taxed at 7%. The next 300,000 will be taxed at 11%. And then the next 2.5 million will now be taxed at 15%. Now, if you are now earning 70,000 naira per month on that, and you want to be billed on the old one, or anyway, the one that is running as because it has not been passed anyway, then such a person in the current dispensation will have to pay taxes to the tune of about 75,000 naira. And that person,
what we have
now,
the tax law,
that's currently running. Now compare it now. Somebody who's earning 840,000 naira per annum now will pay about 75,000 naira taxes on that. And somebody with the new law now to be promulgated, to be enacted, if allowed, will now be paying only 6,000 naira in a year. Now that means we are not. This law is friendly, is pro poor, is pro growth, and is not anti poor. But if you are now any maybe 25 million naira, you are earning 50 million naira and above, you will pay 25% of that your income, which means from the 50 million that you earn in a year, you have to pay close to 12.5 million naira. And you know, people will keep on telling us, are we sure the government will make more money? I say yes. Because
I wanted to, you know, you saw me drafting. I wanted to ask.
Yes, because
states are complaining. If actually what is accrued to them, possibly at the state level, supposed to be 75,000 naira on a worker, you know, in a year, and all of a sudden that worker will end up paying something far, far less. How will they benefit?
Okay. It's what
These are the concerns of some of them.
The
Professor Babagwana Azulum said possibly only Lagos and Rivers can earn,
and we come to
others will not.
Femi, I think we need to come to that. Maybe immediately I finish this one. So what we are going to lose as a state for those who are earning 70,000 and below by not taxing them has been compensated by those who are the top echelon of the ladder. We are going to. The government is going to tax them seriously to the extent that by the time we now put all those things together, it will now be more than double what we're supposed to have collected if we are taxing those people who are earning 70,000.
So what the government can't earn from this side of the ladder,
they will earn more
from the top of the ladder.
On the top of the ladder. Because how can you be saying those who are at the top of the ladder, the first 300,000, that's the same bill, the one we were using before, the first 300,000, they will pay, we charge them at 7% too. The next 300,000, for somebody who is earning close to maybe 2 or 3 million naira in a month, if you are earning 50,000 naira per annum now, let's say, okay, that will be close to about 5 million naira in a month. Okay, if you earn 5 million naira in a month, that will be 60 million in a year. How can somebody who's earning 5 million naira in a month, you now be saying, the table will be saying the first 300,000, 7%.
He's earning in millions, and the tax is being calculated in thousands.
In thousands. Is that right?
Making it improper.
Is that right? Is that appropriate? And so, and you know, rich people, they can't talk. Because they are not affected. If I'm earning 5 million naira in a month in Nigeria of today, and you are telling me that I should pay 1 million naira from my money, I'm still going to have 4 million.
Left.
Femi, I'm still a wonderful guy in this society. I'm still going to live well. I will still take my children to the best school in this area, in Osun State. But if I'm earning 70,000 and you are still taking close to about maybe about 10,000 from my month every month, we will come to the street and begin to protest. But people did not know, and they've not gotten to that level to know that, look, what the government is doing today is, look, say, you guys that are poor, please be at peace. Those of you who are rich, you will agree with me that if you know about these footballers, you hear that, okay, they take 200,000 naira weekly, 200,000 pounds weekly, $200,000 weekly. That is not their disposable income. They hammer them so much with taxes that even when you say you earn close to about 100,000 pounds per week, you pay as much as 40,000 pounds taxes on that particular money. So what you have to take home will be about 60,000 pounds. But they are still okay with 60,000 pounds because you can live where you can do anything that you want to do with 60,000 pounds. Okay, and that is essentially what's going to happen in Nigeria. Now you have you threw up the issue of Lagos and Rivers.
The governor said maybe it's only Lagos and Rivers that can benefit. Others will not. Even mentioned Oyo Oshuna.
Unfortunately, the law that is being promulgated now is uniform. It's going to apply uniformly on all states of the federation because Nigerian tax policy is unitary. Okay. When you want to formulate a policy on taxes, it will be done. I was a member of the Joint Tax Board. At that level, we come up with the policy, we throw it to the government or at times the government will ask us to work on a particular area. The committee will do that, will look at the pros and cons. They will come up with a document. And once that is done, that is now sent to all the states. It will be passed as a law, and all the states of the federation will run with that particular law. However, why some states were actually crying or agitating is because of a very minute part of the revenue generation, value added tax. Okay? And if you know, if you read through the documents very well, you know that value added tax is actually supposed to be on the residual list, which means every state should collect its own value added tax, or what we call consumption tax.
Yeah.
But if we do that at state level, there will be chaos.
Why?
Because if you make a call on a particular telecoms network now, you make a call in Bonu, you are calling somebody in Oshobo, who will take that? It's going to cause chaos, because Osho will say, I want to collect my own. Bonu will say, I want to collect my own. The guy, the headquarter is staying in Lagos, say, I want to collect my own. There will be chaos.
And that's multiplication.
That's multiplicity, about taxes. And so they are only crying about the value-added tax. In fact, as we speak, as at last year, the total taxes collected, in Nigeria was looking at the totality of what the federal government collected and the subnationals. It's about maybe about 51 trillion naira. And VAT contributed only 3-point-something trillion.
Out of that?
Out of that 51 trillion. So which means value-added tax itself is not the focus of many of these government. So it shouldn't be an issue for us to even worry ourselves about. Right. However, even as it were, let's look at this 3-point-something trillion. Why should other states be saying Lagos, Rivers? It's because the subsisting law driving taxes on VAT has to do with 20% derivation. And because of that 20% derivation, we realize that some states like Lagos, based on the population, they are taking more than any other countries, any other states, because most of the headquarters of these companies in Nigeria reside in Lagos. They domicile in Lagos.
So that's an advantage for them.
It's an advantage for Lagos. But this new law is going to tinker with that derivation. And it's now going to say, look, we are not going to take derivation to be 20%. Derivation will now be 60%. What does that mean? It means that collection of VAT will no more be on domiciliation of the headquarters in your state. It will now be because you consume in that particular state. Because before, all the VATs on, VAT on telecommunications goes to Lagos location, because most of the headquarters are there. It is from that Lagos now that they will now send it to the Federal Allocation Committee, who will now sit down and say, hey, those of you who have the headquarters here, you have to collect much, because most of the company that produces, they are in your state. But it won't be that anymore.
With this new law.
With this. So with this new law, Lagos, that has been collecting close to about 80% of VAT, will drop to about 20% of collection. The analysis has been done.
And so if there is any state that should be complaining, it should be Lagos.
I said people don't know. Lagos was the first state that this Oyedele committee went to. Taiwo Oyedele went to Governor Sanwo-Olu to appeal to him, thinking that Lagos will say, no, we are not agreeing. But fortunately for the committee, Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu agreed in total with what they presented. I said, look, there's no problem. Every state in Nigeria must benefit. And so Lagos will no longer collect 80% of VAT. They'll be collecting maybe 22%. 2%. It is only Lagos and Rivers that will be collecting less in the new dispensation. And I want to also let you know, it's because we have not read through the documents. Right. We've not digested, we've not looked through and see whether this document is good for us. In the sharing formula now, federal state government before used to collect 50% of the totality of VAT. They will now be collecting 55%.
Okay.
Federal government that was collecting 15% will now be collecting 10%. They've dropped 5% to the state. And the local government that has been collecting 35% will remain at 35%. If you add 35 to 55, that gives you 90%. It means 90%, because we are talking about local government autonomy. Autonomy. It means the money that belongs to the local government also belongs to the state, because that local government autonomy is not yet operational the way it should be, but I know very soon it will be. So it means 90% of the money belongs to the state.
To the subnationals.
To the subnationals. So if
the center is only holding 10.
It's only 10. So even the VAT itself is not beneficial to the center. The VAT itself is more beneficial to the state and the local government. And I tell you, I told you that the center is dropping 5%. Yes. That 5% is what we call a buffer. It's in the law. It's going to be a buffer that is going to be used as equalization fund. That if you are earning 1 billion before now, but due to the new law, you are not going to earn up to 1 billion. I tell you that 5%, part of it will be given to you so that you won't earn less than what you've been earning previously.
To make it up.
To make it up. So the risk to the state is zero. And so it's only Lagos and Rivers, and both of them, they've magnanimously agreed. So why are we now troubling ourselves?
All right.
And that's about that.
Thank you. That was a robust one, actually, laying the precedents and everything, the foundation and the intent, and that this particular thing was supposed to, attend to, really. Now, before we go on this break, I'd like to ask you, you talked about VAT, you talked about consumption tax. Right now, there's this thing that's always been happening, even without the law. Start. For example, some states have breweries in their state, in their area, in their locality, and they produce alcohol. And this alcohol, they are not, received. They are not permitted in some other states. At least in Kano, we've seen pictures and videos in which the so-called moral police, Hisba, waylay the trucks, destroy the crates, destroy the bottles, sometimes confiscate the truck as well. And many persons are saying, you are not allowing this. But whatever is generated in all of these states that are producing, generated from other states that these alcohol are being consumed, you are sharing as well. You wouldn't say, oh, don't give me a part of that. Isn't that unfair? Is there any part of this law that will see to that, okay, if you are saying we don't want this product, it's against our religion, it's against our laws, then that particular state should not benefit from whatever is generated from that particular thing. How is this being, factored into these laws?
And that is why
this law is silent on that.
No, it's not silent. It's not silent. I think, like I said, this law is very robust. The law has really addressed all those concerns. For those ones you are talking about, I tell you, it's just unfortunate that maybe some states in the northern part of the country, they will say they are not taking alcohol. Good. That's okay.
That's what they laws,
but then, when you look at the inputs into the production of certain products, even in Nigeria, most of them are even coming from the northern part of the country. Okay? When you look at sorghum, for instance, sorghum is planted majorly from the northern part of the country. And so, if you plant sorghum at that level, substantial VAT will accrue to your state, because at the point of selling to the producer, VAT will be calculated.
And it's part of the ingredient for the alcohol.
Yeah, and it's part of the ingredient to the alcohol. And they will benefit from that VAT. Okay? But that is why we are saying derivation. And that derivation is going to undo all those. The amount of production that you are making, either in form of raw materials or finished goods that you are producing, which is supply side,
Yes.
or you are consuming. So the derivation, which is 60%, will now take care of that. So if you say, what you are saying about the ISBA in Kano is because they destroy alcoholic drinks,
Yes.
that's the finished products. But the sorghum that they are producing from the north, we don't have sorghum here.
Yeah.
They will collect VAT on those materials being used as input to the production of alcoholic drinks. So for them in the north, their concerns have been taken care of. So whatever they look at this issue of tobacco leaves also, majority of them are being planted in the north, and that's why Zaria in those days used to be the hot pot for tobacco leaf processing, the Nigerian Tobacco Company of the old.
Yeah.
So they don't have issues. The northern part of the country, they don't have issues. Whatever you do, derivation will take care of it. And it's going to be to the tune of 60%.
Yeah.
So for them in the north, if they like, they should not allow alcoholic drinks to come. But for those who consume alcohol, then they also will also reap for the consumption that takes place within their territory. And that is why a brewery, for instance, if we have a brewery, I believe we have a brewery in Osun.
Yeah, in Indonesia.
All what the brewery is producing is not being consumed in Osun. Some of them in Osun.
Yeah.
Some of them to other states.
Other states, yeah.
Whatever that is produced, that is consumed in Osun, the VAT on those ones will come to Osun State. That's derivation. 60% of it will come to Osun. The 40% that is remaining will go to the pool, which will now be shared in form of a population and one other index. So that is the issue.
Right.
People should learn to know that whatever you work for, you must earn. And so the northern part of the country, as I said, they have no issue. Whatever they contribute to the pool, 60% of it, unlike before when they were taking 20% on sorghum, they will now be taking 60%
of it.
on sorghum.
And, these are some of the fears that are being allayed by the Taiwo Oyedele-led Presidential Tax Reform Committee, and they are the ones coming up with this. We have been speaking with Prince Adegbite Ademikanra. He's a chartered accountant, a former member of the Joint Tax Board. We'll take this quick break. When we come back, there is this other concern in which there is this proposal that the FIRS might be scrapped, and with what is being called the Nigerian Revenue Service. Many persons are saying, is that needed? Really? Why is that necessary? Is there an advantage in that? We are talking about cutting off costs. How will these pander and how will these benefit the people? We speak to that and other concerns. This is about the tax reform bills 2024 that has been generating ripples. And I'm sure so far you have been informed, you have been educated. Stay with me. I'll be back.